Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Roaster Warm-Up Session. I think at this point I should probably be numbering these episodes off. We just had no idea that this would turn into something fun and exciting and a way for us to talk to you guys and share some of our thoughts on coffee and life and everything. So we have a really interesting topic today. We set up a poll on Instagram, asked, "Hey, what should we talk about? What would you guys want to hear?" And this question in particular was very intriguing to us. It was, as a beginner, how do you get into specialty coffee? Which is such a big question. I think it's a question that we've both heard, spending some time in the coffee industry. So before that, let's pour some coffee.
Let's do it.
Of course, the good old batch brewer.
Batch brewer all the way.
What is this? Tell us a little more.
This coffee right here, Deja bought. She got the Culture. It's called the Culture by Propaganda's collab with Onyx Coffee Lab. So yeah, we'll see. I had it on pour over, so I won't spoil it. Try it on batch and get first impressions from the batch brewer.
Yeah. I haven't had it, so we'll see. It's kind of hard to drink coffee right off the drip.
Warm.
I drink my coffee pretty, like my optimal cupping and my tasting temp is like, it's been sitting around for like 20 minutes, and degassing, dewarming, whatever you want to call it. So.
Yeah. First flavor note comes out right away. It's like solid, super bright. That flavor note itself, not the coffee. The coffee is not bright. Wouldn't be a descriptor I would use for it. What are you tasting?
It's got some really nice stone fruit. Almost reminds me of our Peru, which has like a candied plum, but it's not candied. It's not candied, but it's this nice sweet stone fruit. It's a really solid coffee.
It's roasted very well. The Assam black tea comes out. It's that tea-like texture, but also that flavor of like a black tea. It's also, I would say, it's definitely under extracted. So
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's super under extracted.
No, not super.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's. I think it's pretty close. It's got nice sweetness, a nice. I mean, it's not like a big body, but it's the mouthfeel is what I'm looking for. The mouthfeel is just amazing.
Yeah, it's clean.
So nice. Yeah,
it's very clean. Yeah. The difference between this cup right here and my pour over is there's way more body in this one, because when I had it, I also brewed to a 1-to-17 ratio. This is a 1-to-16, so it kind of makes sense. There's a little more strength here, which, definitely is going to reflect on the body. But it just, it's much better, I think, at 1-to-16 than 1-to-17.
No, this is pretty tasty, actually. It's clean.
Mm-hmm.
And you said this is an Ethiopian coffee?
Yeah, it is.
It's really impressive. Like, it's not your classic basic Ethiopian coffee. It's not.
Not at all.
It's, dude, shout out to Onyx Coffee. You guys probably don't listen to this podcast, but if you guys do, just know I said it here. Dude, just a really spectacular coffee.
Yeah, it's a solid coffee. Plus, Prop dropped his single called The Culture with the coffee, The Culture. And it's all about celebrating culture, celebrating people groups, and celebrating African coffees, the Ethiopians. So good.
Yeah, that's so just super cool. I love that, like, music and coffees just blending together, but music and, that video that James Hoffman dropped. Well, on his channel, somebody else made, I think it's called Gillies or Jillies.
Gillies, yeah.
Gillies. Super just powerful when you can mesh like art and history and culture and coffee together. It's recently that's been really eye-opening for me, but we can save that for another day because we can talk about that forever. That being said, is this specialty coffee?
Yes. with the slurp.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's definitely specialty coffee. And give us a little rundown, because we're talking about how do you get into specialty coffee, and my first thought was like, but what is specialty coffee? We'll do a separate podcast on that whole topic, the big umbrella, but give me a quick little rundown. What is specialty coffee in a nutshell?
So if you could sum it up in very basic terms, I would say that specialty coffee's focus is on quality and sustainability, or quality in where coffee is grown, the region, the geography. So I think when specialty coffee started, we saw a very big turn and a shift towards single origin coffees rather than blends. It's kind of in a nutshell. I know that's very vague, but it kind of is, unless you dive into like the details of what the grade means and all of that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, it's when we're talking about how to get into specialty coffee, we're more talking about how to get into the craft of coffee.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just like a beverage, not necessarily just like, the fruit, but it's more of a craft, and craft from, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but craft from from seed to cup.
Yeah,
totally. It's across the board.
Yeah.
Which kind of like with the definition you gave, it's a little bit more farmer, crop oriented.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of grown to, we can talk about specialty coffee roasters. Like there are roasting companies who are specialty. What does that mean? Which in a nutshell, it's more like, hey, we're valuing craft and quality and excellence, and we're going after that.
Yeah, every part in the coffee supply chain is focused on that craft and quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is definitely in craft. It's definitely in quality. So just wonderful. Give me a little bit of, because I think when we're talking about how to get into specialty, I think also like we have a story. We have a background. Like I wasn't born into specialty coffee. I definitely was not, and the way I started way back, I used to drink coffee. My biggest, most fond memory of coffee was Thanksgiving gatherings, Christmas gatherings, Easter family gatherings, summer family get-togethers. We love to gather together with other families, and have like a potluck sort of thing. And one of the things at the potluck was usually the family that's hosting will make coffee and we'll have coffee. And most of the time it's coming out with hazelnut creamer, vanilla creamer, and because it's not wrong in that sense, because it's a necessity. It's that like you need some sweetness. You're trying to find some sweetness. It's like you're trying to enjoy your cup, because I would say it's because it's not very specialty, it's just coffee. And man, all the thoughts about me sounding pretentious right now is like, I'm like, but no. Wow. Yeah. It's just a focus on quality and valuing craft, And so that was kind of my beginning with coffee in general. But there was this one very powerful experience that I had where I was living in Portland, and I would commute to this school that I worked at, and I would stop by this small little cafe and just build a relationship being a regular. Like it's fun being a regular.
It is.
I love it. And so just talking with the barista, hanging out, spending a lot of time there. And he's like, hey, like, would you want to try like a smaller, like milk-based drink? And so I had like a cappuccino, which is like a 6-8 ounce coffee, espresso and milk. And it was bonkers. I was like, how have I never, ever tasted coffee like this? Like literally just milk added to espresso, but it didn't have the classic bitterness and smokiness that I remember at family gatherings. And I'm like, there's something special here. There's something excellent here that I've never experienced before. And so that kind of morphed into me just asking the barista just more, being curious, asking questions. And then the second moment really that was crazy, like memorable for me, was when that barista was like, hey, come by sometime. I'll show you how to make pour over coffee at the cafe. Literally on his shift, walked out from behind the bar, set up a little Chemex with him, like kind of walked me through the bloom phase and ratios. And then the owner of the cafe went and sat down right across from us. We just had like a glass of coffee all together and just talked. And that was like Wow.
Yeah. So like listening to you share the story, the things that I'm hearing you say is relationship. So across the board, from the family gatherings of enjoying coffee and moving into specialty coffee, the tie between the two wasn't necessarily the coffee drink. It was the relationship formed over the cup of coffee. You probably wouldn't know where to go with that flavor in that cup if you want to have talked to a barista who is willing, who gave up their time to sit down and process with you. Like, this is why you're tasting these things. 100%. And then, I mean, that's an amazing barista who takes that experience, takes it to another level, and teaches you to brew coffee at the cafe.
Yeah.
That excites me. That's powerful. That's awesome.
Now I don't even see that happening now I look back and I'm like, that literally was a memorable moment, because that's not normal to happen, you know? Which kind of, I'm just going to throw it out there, you know, like, one way to get into specialty coffee as a beginner is just find people who are in the craft.
Yes.
And you won't, not everybody, like, I hope everybody's kind and willing to be so just patient, you know, with somebody. But honestly, like, find somebody who's in the industry, who knows kind of a little bit about specialty coffee, and just ask questions. Be willing to learn, be willing to, hey, can we just sit down and can you run me through that, you know, your V60 recipe or something, you know, and find the community, once again, that those relationships within the industry. But before we go on to more practical stuff, give me a little experience of yours.
Yeah. I think I started, like most people, drinking Starbucks, and what moved me from Starbucks to basically single origin specialty coffees was also a friend of mine who, at that point, I was living in Nashville, Tennessee, and he brought me a mocha pot and basically showed me how to brew coffee at home. So I took that concept that, whoa, like, brewing coffee at home is actually pretty fun, and you can make a very tasty cup. And then in that certain group of people, there was another friend who was already passionate about coffee, and he took me to a cafe that was not necessarily Starbucks. Because at that point, majority of what coffee I knew and the cafe experience was like Starbucks, Dunkin', you know, diner coffee, like these big brands. Mm-hmm. But he took me to a local shop and gave me that experience. And I think that's what intrigued me. It's that experience at the cafe. That wasn't the time yet when I had like a mind-blowing coffee. It was still just the concept of, oh, I can experience coffee outside of Starbucks. And it was connected with a friend, you know? Mm. And then as I dove in, I started, I don't know. Honestly, I can't recall why I bought a V60. I don't remember. I need to dig deep and remember that. But I remember that I started brewing, and the more I brewed coffee, the more I was fascinated by that. At that point, I couldn't taste flavor notes. I couldn't taste the whole hype. I was just fascinated by the craft. Yeah. That's what drew me in. Like, I would brew Starbucks dark roast, the Yukon blend, and then I'd go to a local cafe and buy whatever they were selling if they were a roasting company. The brewing is what brought me in. And then finally, what basically was the last nail in the coffin for me was like that experience of being just rocked by a flavor that I never imagined in coffee, whether that was chocolate at Kookaburra or that was like insane flavors at Verve. Mm-hmm. That was just like, oh yeah, we're not making this up. You can actually taste these nuances. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, I love that. It's kind of the brewing process of it all. And that was actually one really big thing also that intrigued me when I was first starting out. I'm like, what's this? It just looks like this crazy scientific concoction. Like, since when did people brew coffee with this cone-shaped thing? Or let alone when you see a Chemex, you know, and a Chemex is not familiar to you, you're like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But also like, there's something about it when you see it, you're like, man, there's a reason why people make coffee that way. You know, like there's something there that I want to be able to learn and figure out and grow in. So, yeah, dude, that's so good. And something I want to piggyback off of that is I love that you said, like, you weren't you're making pour over coffee, but it's not that you are buying coffee from the most expensive roasters, the most specialty roasters, the best, the greatest. Not necessarily, you know.
No.
It was more of like you're just tasting coffee. You're just, man, you want to experience this delicious brew, and you're gonna buy some at Starbucks. You're gonna buy some at, you know, your mom and pop shop.
Dude, Dollar General, 8:00 coffee, man.
Yeah.
Rocking that in a Mr. Coffee, and the fascination of even brewing a batch brew.
Yeah.
You know, it was just the craft. I don't know. It brought a source of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I building off of that is like the second thing that I would throw out there, which we're going to get real practical right now. The second thing that I would throw out there is simply like experiment with coffees. Buy different coffees from different roasting companies. It's crazy. Recently, somebody from the UK, we got on a video call with him. He's like, man, I moved very far away from the city. I'm in the county. How are we going to sell coffee? And I'm like, well, the beautiful thing is we have something called the internet. And you can literally order coffee from all around the world and have it be shipped to you from any roaster you want. And of course, you know, buying outside the States is a little more expensive, but you have so much to choose from, you know. Today you might be drinking something from Starbucks. Tomorrow you might, you know, go to your local craft roastery, and then, you know, the day after that you could order a coffee from Proud Mary.
Yeah.
And it's just spectacular, you know, the access. So I would say is like, be willing to experiment. Try something, you know, maybe you got into natural coffees, buy something else, you know. Maybe you've kind of been you're intrigued by Central American coffees. Try an Indonesian coffee.
Yeah.
You know, try a South American, try natural, try a washed processed coffee. Maybe don't go to the same roaster, go to different roasters.
Yeah.
Maybe you actually at the end of the day like dark roast coffee. Stop buying light roast.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yep.
like find what jives with you, what you actually enjoy.
Yeah. And let your curiosity take over. Like for me, it wasn't even like you're saying, it wasn't necessarily like these niche, like roasting companies. Like, you know what I mean? It was basically like sometimes I'd go to Trader Joe's and just pick up different coffees there. And one of the things that really caught my eye was the fact that I could see the difference in the bloom. Like even before I knew anything, like I'm like, man, why is it sometimes that when I just pour coffee, like water into my coffee, like some of it just like there's a big dome and some of it is just flat. It's like odd. So like curiosity drove me to explore, and it basically like pushed me forward to ask questions, because you can't really ask questions if you don't have a frame of reference. You have to have some frame of reference. So let your curiosity take you.
For sure. And on top of that, what you mentioned about the bloom is also realize like the specialty coffee industry is still so young.
Yeah.
And there's so much unknowns. Like even in roasting, like there are people we know that are like all like they're very talented, they're very skillful, and they're talking about roasting completely different.
Yeah.
Imagine like roasting being complicated, but also like how you're brewing coffee. Yeah, sometimes, you know, somebody will say one thing, somebody will say another thing that's maybe completely contradicting, but just have fun with it.
Yeah,
enjoy it, taste
sure.
it, you know,
Yeah.
Try brewing a V60 upside down.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, like another day, you know, put two coffee filters in your AeroPress. I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, like it's just, you know, oh man, when the fun, man, John Foreman recently said something about surfing when he's like, when it stops being fun, it's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
It's not called surfing. Also surfs up. That's kind of the general theme of it as well. It's like, it's like you have to, all Big Z's like, dude, you have to have fun when you're out there.
Yeah.
He's like, teach me, Big Z. He's like, are you having fun? And you know, like it's cheesy, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, that's so good. I think a lot of the times, especially the idea of being pretentious comes off when you just lose the fun, lose the joy in the brewing, and it becomes like this like scientific process and all of that. But if you're able to talk about all of these details of coffee and enjoy it and have fun, I think you lose that pretentiousness. It's a dirty word, and I probably shouldn't know how to say it. That's why I can't pronounce it. But you know what I mean? Like you have to let down, like, dude, don't be so uptight. You know, like you were telling me, I won't drop any names, but you're like, man, just watch this barista brew an amazing cup of coffee. He doesn't pay attention to his flow rate as much as you do, but it was phenomenal. And I'm like,
yeah.
shoot. I'm like, dude, I pay attention, make sure my kettle is at the same level, so much detail. And half of the time, my cups aren't even as good as someone who's just sitting there going,
just whipping up a storm.
whipping up a storm.
Yeah,
You know,
I love
have some
that.
fun.
Yeah, that's actually big, you know, and something that now I'm talking about, like I've lost. I feel like because now for me, I'm like, dude, oh man, just the extraction's not there. Oh man, the roast is not there. It's just a little off par, man. That, you know, and you're just really at the end of the day, enjoy it and have fun. But other than that, give me some practical couple tips as we wrap up this episode. Couple practical tips of what people could do. Say they don't even have a V60 at home. Mm-hmm. They just heard about specialty coffee. They've had a specialty beverage. They're very intrigued by it. What are some, yeah.
At least when I'm working behind the bar, what excites me is when someone walks into a cafe and says, what coffee are you serving? And I would say, start with that question. Go into a cafe. I mean, I'll try it at Starbucks even too. Like, go any cafe and say, hey, what coffee are you serving? And see where that goes. Yeah, and try it. Go to Starbucks, go to Dunkin', go to your local neighborhood coffee stand. Try it everywhere. And go to all of these cafes, just ask that one question. And to all the baristas listening, if someone asks you that question, dude, just vomit passion. Just let it all out. Like, just be passionate about it.
Let alone, I hope you know what you're serving.
Yeah, well, that too.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, just be passionate. Like, baristas, the key is, like, a good barista is passionate about their craft. Yeah, so I think that's definitely it. If you wanting to get into specialty coffee or coffee in general, just go in and ask, what coffee are you serving?
Give me a couple more.
Another one, I think starting up brewing at home, it doesn't have to be expensive. Don't get overwhelmed with buying a ton of gear.
Yes.
Buy a French press. You can go to Goodwill. You can find a ton of French presses. And you can probably buy a set, and you don't need a fancy kettle. Just do that and start experimenting with different coffees. Like we were saying, go to the grocery store, just buy different coffees and brew them on French press.
Yes, for sure. Don't get overwhelmed by expensive coffee gear. You don't need a $200 scale. I'll buy one. I have one. I'll enjoy it. But that doesn't mean you need to right off the bat. Yeah. There's some cheaper, nice Amazon scales. Go to Goodwill. You might find a really amazing coffee scale there for a discounted price. It's happened before. I've seen Stags at Goodwill. Yeah. You know, talking about thrifting at Goodwill, you know, the other month, our mom found a great Bonavita batch brewer for like $7.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
You're telling me $7 and you can get a tasty batch brew in the
Yeah, don't get overwhelmed by, man, I need to have all the little gadgets. Like I said earlier in my story, someone bought me a mocha pot, and that intrigued me.
Yeah. So, find the gear, the brewing method that you want to use, whether that's a French press, a V60, all that stuff. A couple of things that I would say is really surround yourself with a community. Ask around. Maybe you have a friend, a cousin. Maybe you're just like watching our YouTube videos and that's what got you in specialty. We're going to try to keep releasing videos and trying to educate and help and guide you guys. But, you know, find a community that you can learn from and just being always willing to learn about, you know, different things and just taste also. Drink lots of coffee. That's the best part about it. You get to enjoy a lot of really tasty cup of coffee, you know, and, you know, try a batch brew. Tomorrow, try a little cortado. Today, try a pour over. You know, the day after that, maybe try a cappuccino. Maybe try, like, I get it. Shots of espresso are pretty hard to drink, but just get one for the sake of knowing what that tastes like. And maybe you might find a hidden gem in there, you know? So, just be curious, ask questions, and and enjoy it. Honestly, at the end of the day, just have fun with it.
Yeah. So good. Very well wrapped up there, Mark.
Yeah.
A+.
I don't know. There's so much that I could say, but
Dude,
I'm
I
like,
know I'm holding back
I know,
thoughts.
I'm
I'm
like-
like, dude, if we keep going, this is gonna be
yeah.
a 40-minute talk.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully that was helpful for you guys to just listen through. Maybe you're just getting into specialty coffee. Once again, on YouTube, the comment section is wide open for you guys to ask questions. On Instagram, our DMs are open. We're always having good conversations. Just feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask. And we're here to have fun with this craft. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned. Otherwise, you guys have a good one.